Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Thrashers Paradise. Today, I'm joined with a very special guest. He's joining me all the way via Skype from Wyoming. I am joined with Fell Harvest's Joseph. He is the bass player and lead singer. He is here today to talk about the upcoming release of A Pale Light in a Dying World.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I am excellent. How are you?
I am doing great. To start off, as I was reading the email I received from the PR of Asher Media, I loved the first fun fact, which was you met your fellow bandmate and guitarist off of an ad from Craigslist after listening to his audition, which he did of Crystal Mountain by Death.
Correct.
For you, what really stood out in his rendition from Death's Crystal Mountain?
Mainly the fact that he picked it. The reason it was tough to find a new guitar player for what was then still called Thorns of Acanthus, the previous incarnation of the band, was that it was very much a doom metal band, but there were parts that required some real death metal technique. Like we were pulling from that 90s Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride era of death metal that could have some pretty thrashy stuff in it. And there were also some parts that had real actual solos. The prior guitar player, Evan, is a very accomplished death metal lead guitarist. So I needed somebody who could play really well, but still wanted to mostly hang back and play that slow, plodding, heavy stuff. And it was just not easy to find. A lot of people who responded were sending me like clips of themselves playing songs that just they were more in that traditional, working the one minor pentatonic riff over and over again sort of vein. And I just didn't feel like they could carry the energy where it needed. And the second I heard Liam play, I was like, all right, you're going to respond to an ad talking about doom metal, and the song you pick is Crystal Freaking Mountain. We're probably going to get along.
Excellent. Now, this is the second release under the new name Fell Harvest. Coming a year after your self-titled release, which was a 4-track EP or album. I always get the two confused.
I think we really called that one an EP. I think the total length was clocking in just under 30 minutes, so it was a long EP. It would have been a very short full length.
Fair. True enough. I was able to listen to it a bit earlier today and yesterday, and I do have to say is truly stellar. Very good. As I told you before we started recording, it sounds like the vocal style and the musical aspects aren't supposed to work, but it works very well.
Cool. Thank you. I'm glad. Are you talking about the EP or the new album? Because there's a drastic difference in vocal style between them.
Both, I guess. But no, it works very well. And I was kind of curious, like now being a year after, with the EP being out for a full year now, what has been the overall response and feedback from maybe not just reviewers, but from fans alike about Fell Harvest?
The EP didn't really get the traction we hoped for, unfortunately. I think a lot of that was just because we never played any live shows for it, for obvious reasons. So being able to really promote and push and drive it, didn't like we were playing on a couple podcasts and people who were already familiar with the band said that they liked it, but it didn't really land with a broad reach to a lot of new people. And we're really hoping that the new album is going to get more people interested, more people getting the chance to hear it in a wider audience, and hopefully when the time is available, we can start to play live again.
All right, and I did notice on your Facebook feed the other day, you've done quite a bit of interviews, mainly like you've done one with a man from British Columbia and Vancouver, and now you're doing one with someone from Ontario, so you're getting that kind of North American spread.
Yes, that's great. I have a deep fondness for Canada because my brother moved there in his early 20s and is still there and is a professor at University of British Columbia in Lethbridge. So I have two Canadian nephews in addition to a now Canadian citizen brother.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, speaking of the newer stuff, Titan aside, I hope I did not pronounce that wrong.
I don't think it's a real word, so I'm pretty sure you can
Okay,
pronounce it however you want.
Oh, perfect. Titan aside, which came out 2 weeks ago on YouTube, is the first track to be released, I believe, from this new album. And I just want to know what made Titan aside be the first track you wanted the world to hear from the upcoming album.
Well, that song was almost an afterthought. We were deciding to, during pandemic lockdown, let's try to record some of this material. We were planning on getting ready to do another one in the wintertime after the summer, where we'd hopefully get a bunch of gigs in and just kind of, do that cycle. Obviously, we're stuck in lockdown or partial lockdowns, not able to rehearse as much, not able to really get out there or do any gigs. So we decided to throw some songs together that we had been working on and try to just write something. During that process, kind of as we were getting ready to begin recording, we realized that this is only going to be a 5-song album. It's a little too short. Is there something else we could throw in? So I put Titanicide together from a few riffs that I'd actually had lying around in the back of my head for years. And once we actually started playing it, that was an interesting one to record because we'd never jammed it as a band. It had never been rehearsed until we went in and began the recording process. It just had such punch and so much energy that it really felt like it needed to be the opening shot for the record. Both to one set us apart as we're still a doom band, but we're pulling in this very heavy 90s mellow death influence as well, and this 90s thrash influence as well, which has always been a huge part of our backgrounds. But also that, the vocal style is very different. The subject matter is very different. This is very much a new band from what you may be remembering from the last time we released.
I can definitely back that up with the new track because at first when I was listening to it, I was a bit thrown off because it kind of had like that 70s, 80s feel to it, and then it got into that doom sound that we all know and love. And I thought the transition was a very flawless transition. It was a very good one, and I gotta be honest, I think you made the right decision with going with Titanicide for the first track to be released.
Awesome. Technically, I don't think it was the first to be released. It was the first we released, but the title track was also on the Doomed and Stoned in Colorado compilation back in April.
Oh. Now, when it came to that, what made you want to have that be the one to be put on the compilation?
That was just timing. We were talking with Doomed and Stoned, and they wanted a song from us, and we really wanted to be on the comp. We were actually going to use Stillwater's Cold from the EP, and about a week before they were ready, or 2 weeks before they were ready to get the song, I got a pre-mastered release from Alexander, our producer, of both Titanicide and Pale Light. So I was like, well, if we can promote the new album while also being on this, let's try to do it. I sent copies of both, and Titanicide is just too fast for that comp, but they thought Pale Light was perfect, so we said yes, definitely use that.
Awesome. Now, what inspired the name A Pale Light in a Dying World?
That came out of this day I was back years ago. I was living in Denver. I was walking to work in the middle of winter. It was like late January. It was very early. The sun had barely come up, and I was one of the only people on the street, and I just felt like I was walking in this completely dying world, devoid of light and hope and energy. And at the time, I had just been reading part of Jack Vance's Dying Earth trilogy, which is a sort of proto sci-fi fantasy novel. And this phrase hit me, like I'm looking at a pale light in a dying world. I'm looking at the bones of civilization that's devoid of people. There's nothing else. What if this is really all the world could offer? And I jotted down a few thoughts about lyrics that day when I got to my office. A few days later, started messing with the song, and it took shape over the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. For you, Because I bet recording, of course, when it comes to a lot of musical stuff, there's always its challenges, always its like good times. For you, what would you say was the most rewarding part of the whole recording process for Dick's album?
Um, the one that particularly sticks out, we messed with Liam's guitar tone a lot and my bass tone a lot to try to get it as close as possible. We knew Alexander could do some studio magic and reamp some parts and stuff, but we really wanted to uh, make as much of the song and the tone ourselves, just both to make it simpler on him and also to really keep our identity intact. And it's easy to do albums in a DI box, send it to a producer, and end up sounding exactly like the last person who used that particular set of impulses, right? Not that there's anything wrong with using those types of tools, but we really wanted to make sure that at least a chunk of the DNA was our own. And so we're messing with it and trying to get like something that really had the punch of Doom, but was articulate enough that you could do the more subtle parts, the faster bits, and retain all the definition. And I think the song we're listening to was Lark at Morning, which is not one of my favorite songs overall, but we had it, the two guitar parts panned out, which were both double tracks. So we have quad track guitars, and there's this cool layered part in it. And when that, I was like, if I'm enjoying my least favorite song in the album this much, this is really going to hit. And I think we at least nailed the guitar tone. And that as long as everything else didn't get messed up, the guitar tone would be able to at least carry us.
Awesome. That's honestly a cool little story. Of course, usually here I do like to talk about the album covers because, there's so many great album artworks that come with the music that we listen to in the metal genre, and this is definitely one of those ones too, where it's a very gloom, dark, apocalyptic kind of feeling album cover. For you, were those all kind of like the minor requirements you needed for this album with a title as A Pale Light in the Dying World?
Absolutely. And that cover, Sam Nelson, the artist, very, very talented guy. Check his stuff over at Stigma Art. Absolutely incredible artist. I told him the title of the album. I sent him a songwriting scratch of the title track, which had no lyrics and was over programmed drums and stuff, and just like nothing really impressive, but at least gave him the gist of how the song flowed. And I sent him a draft of the lyrics. And about a day later, he came back with this verbal description of what it envisioned for him. And I was like, this is awesome. Let's do this. He sent me like a couple little sketches of just color palettes he thought fit really well. And that was just beautiful in my book. And I let him run with it. And within a week, he had this painting set up that he had done. And that's what you see on the cover. And I couldn't be happier with it.
Excellent. Now, because you're from Wyoming and I am not too familiar with metal in the state of Wyoming, I just would like to take like maybe a minute or two just to talk about metal in Wyoming. So, what is it? Is there a huge scene there, or is it like more of a smaller kind of scene?
There's not huge anything in Wyoming, so the whole state only has about 500,000 people in it, which is smaller than the Denver metro area, to give you a comparison. And Denver's not even a large city by American standards, at least population-wise. But the scene that does exist is really, really passionate. Before I moved here, I played a show with my former band Craftion that was just in the pasture behind some guy's house. They had dragged a trailer out, put a PA on it. That was our stage. They put a huge bonfire up, and there were like 150 people packed around it listening to us. It was incredible. Great responses, a lot of fun. The people who do listen to Metal Hill really, really love it. Shortly after I moved up out of Denver, I think it was Goat Horror played at this little used record store, new and used record store called Early November. It's been around for a really long time, and you couldn't get in. There were people spilled out onto the sidewalk. There were people packing the bar across the street. And it was a really impressive turnout for what felt in a lot of ways like a DIY show. And that's kind of the vibe that Wyoming has when it comes to its metal.
Awesome. Damn, that's awesome. When it comes to fellow Wyoming metal acts, do you guys stick out like a sore thumb because you are a doom metal band, or are there a lot of bands similar to you in your genre style?
I mean, there's only a couple acts that are real active right now in Wyoming that I can think of, and we don't really sound much like any of them. Again, because there hasn't been much live music, we haven't had the chance to play Wyoming as Fell Harvest. I've only ever played it with another act. And I've been back to the to a similar version of that same sort of DIY party in the field. And there were some cool acts there. Horta Draugr is one of them. I've played with Horta Draugr a couple of times. They're not active anymore, or they're partially inactive. I'm not sure what the exact situation is. There's another one-person thrash black metal band called Chemo. I think they're out of Laramie, or he's out of Laramie, but I've never actually played with him. I've seen him perform once. And then there's a lot of crossover with bands from Colorado. So bands from Denver, we're only about 2 hours away from Denver. So bands will come, up and down and trade back and forth. And there's kind of a lot of synergy and familial sort of ties back to Colorado bands.
Awesome. And I have one last question for you. This is a question we ask all of our first time appearing guests on Thrashers Paradise, just to kind of test your metal knowledge and where you stand in the great debate of all of metal history. Who would win in a fight, Lemmy or God?
Trick question. Lemmy is God.
And that is correct. Joseph, thank you so much for your time, giving me this opportunity to talk to you. It's really cool just to be able to talk to people from all across the world, not just my country. And I think this is just great. Is there anything else you would like to promote or say while I have you here on Thrashers Paradise?
No, not that I can think of. The album is out July 16th, and hopefully we'll get out into the real world playing shows and maybe even get up to Canada soon. So
yes, because I can tell you this much: you definitely have a place to come and drink if that is your cup of tea.
and I know Canadians like to drink. So.
Oh yeah, we got the good stuff here.
Yeah, well, looking forward to it. Hopefully we can get through. If we get through Hamilton, I will look you up.
Awesome, sounds great. Well, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. As Joseph said, July 16th, A Pale Light in a Dying World by Fell Harvest will be out into the world. Make sure to find it on, I'm assuming it will be on Spotify and other streaming services.
Be on streaming services and Bandcamp.
Excellent. And until next time, everyone, keep on thrashing.